The Green Bay Packers have wasted the career of Aaron Rodgers. Arguably one of the best quarterbacks of all time has managed one Super Bowl in nearly the past 2 decades. And today I'm going to explain how and why this happened. So stay tuned to get the whole story. Listen, I'm a Bears fan, so this definitely hurts to admit, but this man owns me. I try to be as unbiased as possible too. Aaron Rodgers has almost as many accomplishments as anyone you can list off in the history of this league. He was drafted out of Cal with the 24th overall pick in 2005, in which many believed he had fell too far, and those people were right. Rodgers didn't see consistent playing time until the departure of another Packers legend, Brett Favre. Taking over as a starter in 2008, we have witnessed greatness for nearly 15 years. You can go on and on with Rodgers' list of accomplishments. Super Bowl MVP, 4-time most valuable player, going back-to-back at age 38, 10-time Pro Bowler, and top 10 in nearly every statistical category for QBs. Notably, Rodgers has thrown for nearly 60,000 yards, 475 touchdowns, and only a measly 105 interceptions, giving him the lowest interception to attempt percentage in NFL history at 1.4%. Truly one of the greats, many believe him to be the greatest quarterback of all time when it comes to raw talent. If you weren't familiar with Rodgers and I listed off his accomplishments just then, including only one ring attached to his name, you would think I was lying straight to your face about him having only one Super Bowl. This one Super Bowl came early on in his career as well, before he had won any of his 4 MVPs. Obviously, he still carried his team throughout the playoffs, defeating the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-25, in which would be his only victory in the Big Dance. It's bad that this would be his only victory, but it gets worse. This would be the only time that he would even play in the Super Bowl. For reference, let's take a look at some other signal callers and how their team set them up for success. Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowl wins. Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw, 4 wins. Troy Aikman, 3. Eli, Peyton, Big Ben, and more have 2 victories in the big game. When matched up with some of these guys' careers with Aaron's, a lot of them don't even come close. In the 14 years following his first year as a starter, Rodgers has only missed the playoffs 3 times. This includes 2017 when he was largely injured and 2022 when he was 39 years old and was only still 1 game away from making it, losing to the Detroit Lions in what could be his final game at Lambeau Field. For my math experts out there, Rodgers has made 11 playoff appearances, with only 1 of those resulting in a Super Bowl appearance or win. For a bit of an unfair reference, Tom Brady has 10 Super Bowl appearances himself. I think we're starting to get the message of how deep these struggles for Rodgers and the Packers go. Again, as a Bears fan, seeing Rodgers get knocked out is pretty much our Super Bowl because we're never in it. But even I can get sick of all of these times losing over and over again. I want to see the greats do well. So it's time to dissect why this happened. In my eyes, the main reason why I believe Rodgers and the Packers have struggled in this era is due to troubles with the cap. Don't get me wrong, Rodgers has played with some great players from Davante Adams, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, Randall Cobb, Aaron Jones, Eddie Lacy, David Bakhtiari, and even more defensive studs. However, the Pack have rarely been able to pull all the pieces together at the same time. In Rodgers' career, Green Bay has only had teams with both a top 10 offense and defense in terms of points twice, and one of those years is when they were able to lift the trophy. In this league, you need balance for sustained success. So what's preventing them from building an all-around team? The answer is the man of the hour, Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers' entry-level contract and beginning contracts were nothing too crazy, with his second contract coming in at $10 million AAV, or average annual value. This was the time period where they were able to hoist the trophy. On the other hand, his contracts within the past decade get a bit out of hand. For 5 years, from 2013, Rodgers was paid $22 million AAV. From 2018 to 2021, he was paid $33 million AAV. And now, his most recent contract is $50 million beans a year at $30 29 years old, mind you. Notice the difference between the year he won a ring and the years that he struggled, aka the past decade, him and the Packers. In 2010, he wasn't asking for nearly as much money, allowing the team to build him a solid supporting cast. These were the years where the Packers had their most well-rounded teams. Skip forward to the past decade, Rodgers' asking price has simply gotten too high. Whether it's greed, ignorance, or both, this much money being asked by one player, and him getting it obviously, is going to make it very difficult for a front office to manage when building an overall team capable of winning it all. But I don't think the Packers front office should get let off the hook that easy. You still had maybe the most talented QB of all time at your disposal, and you only got one championship out of him in nearly 20 years. Regardless of their financial commitments to Rodgers, a great front office or team would find value, or at least enough value that allows Rodgers and the team to play in the Super Bowl more than once every 20 years. To pivot, let's bring in Brady again. Brady with the Patriots understood that Bill Belichick needed money to build around him. During the same period of Rodgers asking for all that money, Brady signed very cheap contracts considering he is the greatest of all time. He could have asked for much more. This allowed the Pats to build their dynasty for years and years with him at the helm. Brady's contracts didn't exceed $21 million AAV until 2019, which is crazy to think about considering how much other quarterbacks, including Rodgers, were getting paid during this same time period. Quite honestly, I see Rodgers' selfish contracts, even if he doesn't mean it, to be the leading cause of the downfall of this Packers era. Still, so many factors need to fall into place for this waste of talent to go on for this many years. Maybe it was mediocre coaches like Mike McCarthy and Matt LaFleur being carried by incredible talent or talents. Maybe the referees weren't paid enough before the games to determine the outcome of those key games. Or maybe, just maybe, Rodgers' play should take more of the blame. Even with defenses that couldn't stop a third down in a playoff game, you can't consistently keep letting Rodgers off the hook. At times, his play just wasn't enough to lead them to the big dance or those wins in the Super Bowl had he got there. Let's call it a collective effort from both Aaron and the Packers that contributed to their sustained failures besides that one year. But a Super Bowl ring is not something to take for granted. At least the Packers and Rodgers will always have 2010. Many of the game's greatest quarterbacks go their entire careers without seeing a Super Bowl ring appearance or even many playoff appearances. Nonetheless, the Green Bay Packers could have gotten so much more than one ring out of one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play.